Hey there, everyone. We have some real showstoppers in the market this morning. Apple and Google, some of the biggest companies at the top of that list. Palantir also coming in with a fairly interesting chart that I think you're going to enjoy my perspective. Same thing with SOFI. Then I got a penny stock for you, PSNY stock. So it's a Polestar. We'll check that one out as well. And then for each of these plays, I'll give some commentary as well on how options might be that thing that would benefit you in these sort of scenarios or these sort of circumstances. We do have to keep the market volatility in mind, but if you don't know anything about options and want to, there is a beginner's option workshop coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. That's Saturday, September the 6th. There's a limited number of seats available. You can click on the link down in the description, scroll through these, read about just the things that are going to be offered to you. There is a live workshop. There's also a live Q&A that goes along with that workshop. It's about 90 minutes, might go as long as 2 hours. We'll see. It really depends on how many questions you ask and get really nuanced answers to what it is that you want to know about options, how they can benefit you, how you can take pennies, turn it into dollars, dollars into hundreds of dollars. So we'll talk about all that stuff and more, getting you ready to go from absolute beginner to being ready to take your first steps into call options, put options, in that world of options. There are a limited number of seats available. Make sure you use code word money when you sign up. So guys, let's get into the charts themselves. There we go. So we'll kick things off with my friend Apple. There we go. So Apple up in the pre-market this morning. And so this is the 4-hour chart that we're looking at here. Why did they get such a big green candle in the after hours last night and then continue that stride? Well, it turns out that Google is going to have to pay them for being the default search engine. So that means a lot of cash into Apple's pockets. And now this was an excellent ruling for Apple. So we see that sort of movement. And if we go out to the daily chart on this one, we'll go out away from where we're at. You guys can see up here with orange, that gap up that we have above yesterday's close, which was all the way down at 229. Now we're up at 237. So an $8 move from Apple, which is normally fairly stable. To see that volatility is a good thing. We got to be careful that we don't get tamped down by the jobs report today that we get through JOLTS, I should say. So JOLTS expected to come around 7.4 million. If we do, good. If we come in far south of that, bad. If we come in far north of that, really, really good. So for this one, we might see a little bit of worry in the markets. Now, mind you, if I put the technicals up, it gets a bit messy, but we actually do have some things to look forward to, such as the fact that maybe we pull back as far as 232 or maybe some of these other peaks that we have in here. We can also push to the north to 240 to 243 in the near term for this. If we do happen to have favorable results in the market, we're going to have to watch and see. Now for Google may have had to sell off its Chrome browser. There we go. But it turns out the ruling came out, this weekly chart that we're looking at, they do not have to sell off. The ruling was they don't have to sell off the Chrome browser, which means more cash in their pockets as well. The market reacted very favorably, went from a close of about 212 up to right now in the pre-market's about 225. So a $13 move. Big old gap up for Google as well. Let's drop down to the daily chart so we can see what's going on there. And then I also want to show you what that looks like with some of the lines that we have for technicals. We just happen to be right at trend line resistance right now with this movement that we see all the way up here, maybe peaking a little bit above, but just north of that is the 1272 or the 1.272 Fibonacci retracement value on this one. So beyond 100% of the move and then about 27% more on top of it. That could be capping us to the north at about 226. We're going to have to watch and see what we get. So I think that we could see a fairly good retest of some sort of support that would happen. And that could happen on an intraday level where you wouldn't necessarily see it. So for instance, this pulled back all the way back to 222. The peak up here was already at about 230. That could set up for that next move that we see. And once again, all these things can be tamped back down if JOLTS comes in kind of sour for us. That could pull down the entire market. We got to be aware of that. But if JOLTS comes in, and there's not much to worry about according to the JOLTS numbers, the market's going to be like, oh, well, I guess we'll just continue on in the bullish direction. So Apple and Google expect some volatility in those plays today. And so I think that there's going to be some traders very excited about taking advantage of some of the more predictable movements that we'll find according to the technicals, because we should see some heavy trading volumes for them. Now, for Palantir, this is the 4-hour chart. You can see it in the back here. PLTR is the ticker, 4H for the 4-hour candles that we're looking at here. And we're pretty much range bound here in between this support and this resistance. And the exciting thing here for Palantir is when we do get a movement out of this range, the excitement is it should be explosive for us. So if we're able to pop up over 164, especially on volume, that should leave us with green lights all the way back up to about 185. Now, if you're bullish on Palantir, that can be a very good thing. If we find ourselves down under this, we still have big fat supports to the downside on this one. So what would that turn out to be? That would be, well, net bullish would be what you would be looking at. Once again, keeping macro conditions in the background. So if the entire market sells off, then that can push us back down in these support areas, and we watch and see if we can push down through that. This does look like a big fat head on this with some little tiny shoulders off to the side. So what happens if we break down through that neckline? Well, yeah, maybe we could push down further. And the thing is about Palantir is that because it is turning out to be a rock star company, we have some other supports that are down here that could show us where that next major opportunity comes in. So as of right now, things are looking kind of shiny and rosy, but I think the thing that's in control right now is going to be what we get in the background, what we get in the macro conditions. Once again, September sell-off or September, remember, right now the jury's still out on that one. This week is aiming to answer those questions for what exactly we could get from the market, from those background conditions. Typically, it's a September sell-off, a September slump, but there have been exceptions. Maybe this could be that exceptional year. We'll watch and see with what we get. So far, Apple, Google, and Palantir, I think, are very interesting charts. I think we'll see interesting price action from Apple and Google. Palantir shaping up to something big. So watch for that volatility cool down. This could be something that also, if we see just some boring action from this, that can actually be something that could drop the volatility that we would expect from Palantir, which could make for some cheaper options, which could make for some really good option plays on that. Let's go Vega. So moving on from Palantir over to SOFI, I wanted to highlight the trading range that we found ourselves in, which we got into back on Friday the 22nd of August. And we seem to be sort of bouncing around here in this trading range, which means that we're near the bottom of it, which is near that 24.65. I'm going to turn that green for you to say that down there, to imply that down there would be more where we see that buy pressure. This one's red up here because that's more where we see that sell pressure on 26.25. And we could take advantage of that. There is some hiccups in between right around 25.68. And then there's also some pivot lines that come in here. You can see us getting tangled up with this price action right in this area that happens to go from 24.95 up to about 25.11. So as we're dancing around that $25 mark, you can see we had hesitation before. You can see that we had a slowdown of the sell-off before turning things around on the way back up. Poke down through it a little bit. This is the 1 hour chart. If we go to 4 hours and wash out some of the detail on that, you can see even better what happens when we get down below that $25 mark that so far we got buying pressure before. With this thing ripped wildly down, pushed down even below $24 before buying back up. And now we have some moving averages. If we can get on top of this 13 EMA on the 4 hour chart, that should be a good thing for us. If we drop down to the lower one again, back down to the 1 hour, we have the 5 above the 13, which is good. We have the 50 just above that. So moving above those moving averages, getting further bullish crossovers can keep it going. We had a bullish engulfing candle here going back to yesterday as the market got into its opening hours, and then we broke above this shelf as we had that bullish pressure pushing on that into the pre-market. We'll watch and see if that gives us further upside. Once again, as long as Jolts doesn't spoil things for us at 10 o'clock, SOFI could really be one of those performers. Maybe it pushes us back up to the top of that trading range. It's not a well-established range yet. However, it is still stuck in there. And just like what we saw with Palantir, we could get exaggerated movement out of that. If we break out of the bottom of that range, that's a place where puts may be appropriate. It depends on a lot of things. If we break out of the top of those ranges, that's where calls could be appropriate. And we could also look at the top of that. And now, mind you, there are even options, strategies that you can use when you are trading in a range where you could use short or long straddles. In this case, short straddles when you're trading in a range where you take advantage of the lack of volatility that goes along with those movements as well. And now, mind you, this first course that I do, this first workshop, I should say, 4 options, links in the description, code word money when you sign up for that. That's just the beginner stuff. That's what are options, what are they all about, what can they do for you, what risks should you be aware of, and then getting you really ready for buying those calls, buying those puts, depending on if you expect the market, the stock, underlying security, whatever, to go up or down, and then also selling to close them again. And then the next workshop, the next level that goes beyond that, is going to be about selling calls, selling puts to really and to open up positions and seeing how that benefits you. And then once we have those two pieces, we can do a third level of those workshops where we start to put the strategies together and really talk about how we can take advantage of lots of movement, no movement, single direction, either direction, you name it. So for the option stuff, really excited about it. The last 2 workshops went really well. This one I also expect to go really well. Make sure you take advantage. Now, Polestar, this thing's absolutely wild. So far, we're getting some big movements, but what we're not seeing so far is the volume necessarily to support it. So let's drop down from the 4-hour chart down to the 1-hour chart and see if we can find out a little bit more about this. So what we see as I record this thing, as a matter of fact, let's drop down to the 5-minute chart. There we go. So we can see some of that movement. We had that rip down on volume, but we ripped down to this very significant support area, 128 to 130. If we're able to hold that, we might be able to catch some movement back to the north on this. So for Polestar, there's a few things that make it not my favorite in terms of a day trade sort of situation. One is that the shares for float is about 2 billion shares to float. Market cap's about 3 billion. As of yesterday's close when we look at for this one. Now, it also gave us some information about where to find the top at about $1.57 right now. And what I have drawn on here for you, if we're able to hold this support, we could see that return. Now, mind you, you can see that sideways movement that we got throughout the market day yesterday. So it looks like we could find that the top of this thing hit the low 130s, about 132, 133. If we're able to break back up above 137, things could get exciting for us. Again, we could find that levity. There's resistance at 142 and 143, so more of it at 152. What you can see, just take a look at the candles here, the struggle that we got, just look at this line, the struggle that we got with that. Now, mind you, as soon as we broke over it, we magneted right up to this 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level. Couldn't close above it. Finally, at least on a 5-minute basis, we got some candles above it, but then the volume came in and ripped us right back down on this one. So this is one that definitely has that potential to really show us some upside from where it's at right now. If we go out to a daily basis for this, you can see more recently that we've had that significant volume move that took us up to $1.42 or $1.43, and we actually broke up above that in the pre-market hours, and now we're down sitting at $1.27. So this is developing as I speak, but if we're able to hold that 5 on the daily chart here, we're able to break back up above that support that we have here. That could actually give us that nice resting period that we need in order to really push this thing up even further from where it's at right now. And if I take down the technicals and I put up the weekly chart for you, there we go. You guys can see in a more even a zoomed out, denoised manner. So we need to stay up above $1.22 on this one, although I like $1.27, $1.28. A little bit better for that support across the tops of these candles. That could be where that next major opportunity comes in. And I think that it's possible that Polestar is setting up for that in the pre-market hours this morning after that rip that we got down. Kind of some people taking profit in the pre-market hours. Once again, watch for that explosive volume to happen during the day on PSNY. I don't know that we'll get it, but it's possible that we do get it. And after the cooling period that we got with the volume a few days ago, this could be that next time that we see that next leg up. And so that's why I'm bringing it here, because I do think that it could be one of those next best penny stocks, my goodness, to buy now. Once again, keep the market bias in mind because it's going to be important for what we see today from any of these moves. We could see absolutely explosive green, or we could see some pretty disastrous red made from that JOLTS report if it surprises highly in either direction. So surprises to the upside, well above the 7.4. Even if it comes in close to 7.4, I think the market's going to be okay with it. Far south of 7.4, especially as we get down into the 6 million jobs for the JOLTS report when we get it at 10 a.m. And the market's probably not going to like that very much at all because it really pushes us back down to pre-pandemic levels for that employment. And so then that really puts a lot of pressure on the non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate. So yeah, we got some exciting stuff from a technical standpoint, but we have big enough catalysts on the economic side of things, the economic reports, that we got to watch those too. They can either amplify what we see to the upside, or they could be the things that tamp them back down on the downside. So keep on coming back here to this channel. I'll keep on reporting on it for you. And then also for the technicals, once we know a little bit more of what we get from this week, then when the dust settles a little bit and we can plan a little bit more accordingly. So just keep that market bias in mind as you watch these things. Apple, Google should be great today. SOFI and Palantir, watch those ranges to break because that's where those big moves are going to happen. Break the top, big move to the top. Break the bottom, big move to the bottom. And then Polestar, we'll keep our fingers crossed that they can actually pull off some significant movement to the upside. Maybe we're going to tickle that $2 mark. We'll watch and see if we get that volume coming in. If we do, it could be the start of the next leg of the movement, guys. Don't forget about that options course. Links in the description. Code word money, MONEY, when you sign up. It's going to save you 20% off that fee, and it's already an incredible deal. Makes it even better. Helps to get you started with those options, and then you can also chat with the community. That's also part of that for that 60-day forum access. And there's also the Q&A that goes with the workshop. Got to tell you, it's pretty much invaluable, and you're investing in yourself. You can really add some alpha to your portfolio when you know all about how to include options in that. And if you guys want to join us over at the Discord, you can do that as well. Links also in the description. Code word doctor when you sign up for that. And if you don't want to wait to learn using the workshops, you can always use the coursework in the description as well through Stockmo Academy for options, technical analysis, technical trading. Code word doctor also works on those just like it does for the Discord. Guys, I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. We'll see you next video.